Everyone, it is Friday and it's 7:37 and I'm going live because I have been really affected by this horrible building collapse in Miami, on Miami Beach. I used to be a local news reporter in Miami, and so I asked a friend of mine, Lisa Petrillo, who's been covering this, and since this happened, to kind of just join us. Hi, Jared Keller. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Katie.
Well, look, this worked. Lisa and I were talking about we weren't sure if we were going to make this work, but it's Friday night. I know a lot of people are probably out there having fun, Lisa, but I was just explaining that you're a friend of mine, a local news reporter at WFS affiliate in Miami. You've been covering this building collapse all day long. I know you're physically and emotionally spent, Lisa, but I have been just so heartbroken and so upset. Of course, I was explaining that I was a local news reporter in Miami early on in my career and have spent a lot of time, obviously, in Miami. I have a lot of friends there, including you. And I just thought that you could give us an update because I started obviously, I've been reading about this since it happened. And I was on a bus today coming out to the beach, and around 1 o'clock, it was 159 people still who were not accounted for, and 4 people had been found who had passed away. And so, and those numbers are the same tonight, right, Lisa?
Yes, sadly, that is true. So I was covering today. They called it the Reunification Center. Actually, since yesterday, and obviously with that word, you think people are going to reunite, and there was no reuniting, and the people were very upset. It was literally the most heartbreaking 2 days of my life, and equal with the Parkland massacre that I covered a few years ago. I'm normally the arts and entertainment and food reporter here in Miami. I totally cover the happy news. And obviously in an emergency, it was all hands on deck. This is only about a mile from my house. And so we went down there, and I was getting texts from friends because this community, everybody knows everybody. And I can't tell you how many people I know that had family and friends of family that were in this building. And as of right now, there are 4 that are dead. There's the latest was that the mother of the young teenage boy passed away today. She was found with him yesterday. But nobody is hearing any news, and that's the frustration. These families are torn apart. One story, if I can tell you real quick, was 2 21-year-old, a boy and a girl, and they came down for their very best friend's father's funeral. He died of COVID a few days ago. The Jewish religion, they bury quickly. They came down. They were going to stay in that because it's kind of a rental place as well. They were going to stay there for the night, and one night, and that was the night the building collapsed. 21 years old. There's families. The president of Paraguay, his sister-in-law, her family of 5 is missing. It's international. Uruguay. There's people from all over, from Israel, from all over. Locals. It's every story. I was breaking down 3 or 4 times a day. I came home today and I just grabbed a glass of wine to talk to you.
Oh, I'm sure, Lisa, and thank you for your tireless coverage. People really depend on your reporting when something like this happens. And, I've been reading, as I said, a lot about it. This was a very international kind of building. I know that there were a lot of Jewish residents because the synagogue
Exactly.
by, and so there are a lot of members from that synagogue, and as you said, very international. And what was so upsetting, I mean, everything about this story is so upsetting, Lisa, but this happened at what, 1:30 in the morning
Yes.
in bed. It's not as if people, I think people probably, I mean, some people have described it as seeming like it was a loud thunder or an explosion of some kind, and they didn't, and that the building collapsed, Lisa, in something like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it just was a 12 story that went whoosh down like an accordion. I interviewed one young man, 22 years old. He was there with his sister from New Jersey, and he was in the building. And he said first he heard this like loud, sounded like almost like tornado winds. It was like, wow, the weather must have gotten really bad. And then he kept hearing it getting stronger, and he went to look out the window and he just saw dust everywhere. And then as he's telling his sister, wake up, something's going on, he says it sounds like an airplane is landing on the roof of the hotel. He was, I mean, on the roof of the condo rather. And he said he grabbed his sister to go look in the hallway. And when they opened the door, the apartment right across the hallway was gone. So that part of because it was the difference between north and I mean, east and west, and the one facing the ocean just went down. They called it the South Tower, but it was literally the one on the ocean that went. He just said he saw nothing. There was no door anymore. Everything was collapsed. He grabbed his sister. It was pitch dark. He said he looked around. He saw an older woman. She said, follow us, follow us. She said, no, I have pets. I can't. He was trying to coax her. He said, finally, they just ran down. He didn't know if she even made it. Got down to the garage, dust everywhere, and they managed to get out. But it was literally by the split of the section, right on the water side, and on the west side, which is Collins Avenue, the water side went down, the other side stayed up.
You know, it's a lot of people who are watching and joining us, Lisa, are saying this reminds them of 9/11 or the Oklahoma City bombing. And when I called you earlier and said, hey, will you hop on an IG Live with me? You said the same thing, that it was sort of a mini, if you will,
Yeah.
And it does remind me of Oklahoma City. I posted some video, I guess it must have been, Lisa, from, a rooftop nearby, that some security footage that showed the building just pancaking. And everyone who's watching, we're going to talk with Lisa in a minute about what might have caused this, because this is really important too. But I wanted to ask you, these are 3 buildings, and it's weird because, I remember spending a lot of time on Collins Avenue with our friend Tammy and a lot of my friends from WTBJ. And this is further up towards Bal Harbor, right? This is further up.
So this is one neighborhood. It's adjacent to Bal. So Bal Harbor is one neighborhood north of Surfside. It goes, if we're heading north to south, it goes Bal Harbor and then Surfside. So I am literally 1 mile away from where it is.
So this is 3 buildings, 3.
Yeah.
And are they called? Is it called Champlain? What is the complex called?
Yeah. Champlain Tower South is the one that went down. They call it North, and then there's a third building that's a block away. It's a little confusing, but that grouping, the one that was on the water, as I mentioned, was the one that sort of that went down. And they're looking at all of the possibilities of what happened with this building, and it is also a big reason in the slow recovery of finding it, because there's so much going on.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that. Were the adjacent buildings and high rises, have they been evacuated?
Immediately that night. We talked yesterday with hotel.
Wait a second, we can't hear you. Yeah, there you are. That's okay.
Sorry, we talked to hotel guests that were at the Solara, which is the hotel right adjacent, and they felt that same airplane. He described it as a train going through, boom, ran out. Everybody was evacuated. That whole section is evacuated.
We're going to talk about the emotional side of the story, because I know that's what you were covering, and I want to hear some stories. Again, reading about it and seeing people, their parents or their grandparents. And as you said, this was also a place where a lot of young families lived. So it wasn't necessarily all seniors. I mean, it was a real mix, international,
real mix,
etc. But I've read a couple of theories, and I know that somebody sued the building because there was water seepage. They're talking about some of the pipes might have been corroded. They're talking about I forget the name of the word it was, Lisa, but they were saying the water table had been rising kind of steadily. I mean, incrementally, but over a decade, quite a bit. And this building wasn't old. I mean, it was built in 1981.
Right.
There was work on the roof being done. They were getting ready to kind of, I guess, do kind of evaluation of the structure, et cetera. So, I mean, what are people saying in terms of how in the world this happened?
So they don't know, but they think it was just kind of a whole whirlwind of things that went wrong. There were people working on the roof. There was, as you said, this water level, these king tides. Whenever there's this king tide time here on the beach, there's flooding on the beach. There's a lot of factors into play, but they don't think it's just one thing. They think there was some erosion happening in the building. It wasn't that old, as you mentioned, but they don't actually know yet, but that's what's all out there now to figure it out. They're trying to figure out if it was something within the beams. And if also we're talking about some sort of a hole, possibly a sinkhole. These are things that we're going to find out.
I heard that too, that kind of just, I don't know. It's really confounding and so upsetting. And of course, there are a lot of questions, and I'm sure that at some point people are going to get to the bottom of it. But for now, people just want to help, recover people. And I'm curious. I know it was raining, which made the rescue operation even more problematic.
So yeah, I mean, thus my hat, because once you're committed to a hat, you can't take it off for the rest of the day with rain. So yeah, it poured. I was soaked 3 times today, and then all we could think about were the Miami-Dade, the rescue teams that were there, because obviously rain, sand, it collapsed in the sand, making everything so much heavier. We had video of they're underneath on the garages. They're on top of the sand. It's got to be a really painstakingly slow recovery, because everybody was getting so frustrated as to why they weren't finding more bodies or finding any survivors. And of course, as a family member, you can only imagine that you just want to go there yourself and help them dig. And that's what we were just seeing, is that people were just like, why aren't we? How do we know? But they had sonar devices listening. There was talk of hearing things. There was, taps and bings, but as of right now, nothing. I mean, there's 4 people that they found. There's, like we said, 159, I guess it is, that are missing. The other question was, well, let's say they weren't sure, because this is an in and out building. There's some kind of Airbnbs there. Maybe there isn't that many people there, but by now we would assume that unless these people are not paying attention to the world, they would have called in and say, well, we're in Brazil, or we're in Can't, right? We're somewhere else. So yeah, we're starting to think that number is real.
A couple of people, Lisa, are asking if there was a fire today.
Yeah, there has been fires all day. We saw the smoke from where I was, just a few blocks away. They've been putting them out all day inside in the rubble. Lots of fires, whether they're gas fires or electrical fires. They've been dealing with that, dealing with rain. It couldn't be, the luck of what's been happening since it happened, and with the weather here, has been incredible.
And the rescue crews are really trying so hard. And somebody just pointed out that if we learned anything from 9/11, we hope they're wearing protective gear, because the stuff that is pulverized and emitted into the air can be incredibly toxic and harmful. We saw that with a lot of people. Someone was asking about asbestos. I mean, there's, I'm sure, a lot of really dangerous chemicals in the air. So I hope that the rescue workers are protected. And you were telling me on the phone, Lisa, these are the really best rescue workers around. And I read that they're all kinds of groups have descended on the scene to help, like different rescue groups from all over the state.
Yes, and these are the Miami-Dade too, are also the elite of the elite. They've been to Oklahoma. They've been all over. At the same time, we have talked to family members that think that this should be treated as terrorism, that they should bring in people from Israel and all over to come in. But every time you talk to the county officials and the city officials, they say that they have the best of the best here. This is not about that. There is no lack of resources digging through this rubble. It's a matter of how they do it, and the safety of them, and just all of the obstacles they're going through trying to get to these people. It is so heartbreaking. The pictures, the people, the faces. I can't even tell you how horrible it is.
Oh, and that part reminds me of 9/11 too, with all the Xerox photos of people on chain link fences all over New York City. And, people are saying that it is old to have a building from 1981. Of course, I don't think that's that old.
Right.
It's 40 years, but I guess compared to some historic buildings, it doesn't seem that old. And they've ruled out any kind of terrorism or any kind of foul play, or have they, Lisa?
I don't know that they've 100% ruled that out. Was on the story just pretty much focusing on these families today, but I have not heard anything that they're really seriously looking into that. They think, what I've heard through my earpiece when I was covering my story of the other reporters, what they were saying was that they really think it was a mix of structural damage, of roof repair, of the water, of sinkage. They're going to come up with an answer. They don't seem to be talking about any kind of terrorism.
Yeah, and rising sea levels
Rising sea levels. Yes.
might have been a perfect storm, as a couple of people have said.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're exhausted, but I just wondered before we go, Lisa, if you could tell us about, some of the people you met and the people that they are trying to figure out where they are, and family members. If you can share some of the stories of the people with whom you spoke today, who were just, I can't imagine how horrible that is, the waiting to find out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, every story is more heartbreaking than the next. It's somebody's mother, somebody's sister. We are now en route to. I interviewed the aunt of one of the 21-year-old couple that was staying there for one night for their friend's father's funeral. Now I'm sending another reporter to go to interview the boy's parents. They're devastated. They live in Weston. Which is near Fort Lauderdale. It's about 35 minutes from here, 45 minutes from here. And they told me that they're not going to the reunification because they just want to be home. They want to be together. They're feeling like they're not getting any information from there anyway. They're distraught. This cute little, they came in from New York. One of them had an internship in New York, and they came in for this funeral. The other family of 5, 3 little children. I mean, I talked to this one man who was 41, and he said, my brother was like my father. He's 51. I'm 41, and my dad died 20 years ago, and he got me through that. And now he's here visiting us for 2 months with his wife and his 12-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, missing. So he's there, they're wandering around the Reunification Center, hoping and wanting to hear something. But as time is ticking on, and as the hours are going, you're thinking this was 1:30 in the morning, yesterday. It's hot, it's raining, unless we hear a miracle, it's really not looking good. And every story is horrible.
Somebody was asking, why are the residents and families of the people missing being kept, I don't know if if she means it or he means in the dark. Is it true that the owners of the building were told that the building was sinking? I know that you're really not covering that side of the story, Lisa, but have you heard anything along those lines?
I have heard that, and we have not confirmed that there's lawsuits starting, as you mentioned. I can't confirm that or not. I've heard that people were saying that the building wasn't great for a long time, and there were concerns about this building. That's what the word is coming out.
Are they going to be continuing the search throughout the evening?
Yes.
And it sounds like, gosh, I mean, has it just been ghostly quiet? Is there any hope that people might be there buried beneath the rubble, and that they might be, still alive? It's just so terrible. But as time goes on, I mean, I know they're not going to stop looking, but you just that they could hear noises like that 16-year-old boy who was rescued at the very beginning of when this happened. Someone said they heard knocking, possibly, but
yes.
Are they starting to, do they hear any signs of life, I guess is what I'm asking.
We have heard no encouraging news. Earlier today, we heard somebody said they thought they heard a woman screaming. It was another station that reported that. I had not heard that anything came through with that. They definitely said that they've heard knocking, but then they said, well, that could be the rebar, they could be, they don't know, but they have all these sonar devices, and they just said there's nothing that they can correlate to it actually being a person. They did find a person. One of the 4 they found that died today so remember, it's 1:30, 1:40 in the morning. They're sleeping. So one person was actually found like in the mattress with the covers over them, just that fast. And So I think it was really fast and a lot of weight. And then just that young boy that they found yesterday, it was a miracle that they found him and his
What
mom. Unfortunately, she passed away, but he
do
was
you know
able to survive.
what that Lisa's referring? If you all are just joining us, is almost 16-year-old boy was rescued, and I guess is he doing okay, or is he badly injured? Do you know?
They said that no, they said he's going to be okay, but right now that they'd asked everybody to give them privacy because of course he lost his mother today. So he was in the hospital, but I think he's going to be okay. But it's just been, oh, I can't even imagine it for him. You know, it's incredible. And then the other stories are just entire families are wiped out. There was a couple who just got engaged where she wasn't with him and he's there. There's another story of a gay couple that had been trying forever to have a child, and there was a battle about it. They were able to bring the child here. The three of them were in the building as they were looking for a house to buy. It's just every story, Katie. It's incredible. And somebody said to me, well, you know, like these two 21-year-olds, they said, you know, and all these people that were here for just one night or 2 nights, they said they feel like when it's your time that, you know, it was slated for that specific night. I don't know if I believe in that or not, but
I definitely do not believe in that.
I know.
That's you know,
I don't believe in that either.
but it is such a tragedy, and you know, if I really appreciate actually after the day you've had, the 2 days you've had, Lisa, that you're willing to, you know, just kind of give us all an update. And, you know, thank you for covering this story. I hope that you're okay, because that's a really hard thing to do. And it takes a real, you know, it can take a real emotional toll on people. So,
Oh, Katie, listen, thank you so much. And listen, I've watched you work and schooled under you when you started in this market when I was a cub reporter just starting out and watching your career. So and we've had close mutual friends, and I'm happy to do this. I just so sad for what it's all about, and I think it's important to do something like this so people can realize what is going on and the personal stories behind it. But I continue to follow you and admire everything that you've been doing.
Lisa, and the one thing I forgot to ask you is a lot of people are saying, is there anything they can do to help? Should they donate to the local Red Cross? I mean, this is going to be sadly an ongoing story that's going to be going on for days, if not weeks.
Yes, I think they can donate to the local Red Cross, and there is a and of course now it's actually in my phone to find it, but
well, you know what? You can text it to me. And
okay. For Surfside, yeah, for the Surfside government, because what's happening now is so many people, and again, remember there was a big Jewish contingent as well, and they come in with this mitzvah of clothes and diapers and food, and they said they have all of that for right now. It's for the days and weeks ahead of where these people in all of these buildings are going to be able to stay and move. That's when they're going to need money, and I think it's more money now than as far as food and things like that to figure out. So it's the days and weeks ahead.
you know, I saw somebody had written in the sand by the water, pray for their souls. And that just broke my heart too, because all these people gone in an instant, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. But thank you again for your coverage. Thank you for the kindness and compassion I know you're showing these family members, and you know, at their worst possible unimaginable moment. So Lisa, thank you, and thanks for spending some time with me tonight, and I hope you can go and rest and practice a little self-care, as they say. And
thank you, Katie. I'm you know, as I did last night, I'm coming home to hug my family, and that puts it all in perspective.
yeah, everyone watching this should do the same. Anyway, sending you lots of love, Lisa. Thank
you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.